There was some place in a map I clipped once, and it was like some adjective. I think it was like twisted or something next to a town called Liberal. And I think I put that as my Facebook.
Twisted T.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's Liberal, Kansas. Do you think that like they've lost population in the last few years?
They just burn it to the ground
People
every 4
like,
or 5 years.
Can't be in that Liberal, Kansas. Oh, Needy. That's the city that's next to it. Yes, that's what I made. Needy Liberal.
That's very good. Well,
and it's like directly west, so it worked out in that like long, thin bar of a headline. Perfectly.
And when you're going west, the liberals get more needy.
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
Hey. Or they continue to exist. Well, this is episode 78 of the Handsome Hockey Podcast. Thank you for sticking with us. Once again, we decided to just, travel and live our lives. And then when we're done living our lives and we're bored, we make podcasts.
Yeah, we're back in needy, liberal Portland, Oregon. It was nice and sunny today, and we needed to go outside, and we definitely didn't. So we are needy for vitamin D.
I had outside beers. It was great.
All right. Well, speak for yourself.
If things I say today make less sense, it's
because of the sun.
It's because of sun and outdoor beers. Thank you, as always, for stopping by. My name is Jake, and across from me is
Evan.
We're going to talk about the PHF. We're actually going to lead off with that shit. You know what women can do that men can't do? Outside of the obvious, which is like everything.
Ooh, I know. Start a thirst trap TikTok really easily.
Okay, yeah, definitely can do that. You know what they can also do? Bring a hockey championship to Canada.
Oh, wow. Someone did it.
Eat shit, NHL teams in Canada. You ain't doing it this year. And,
well, I mean, that's some shit talking. They technically can, but they won't. No, I mean, like, we can just be honest about that fact.
Anyway, Izzy is in Canada for the first time ever. The Isabelle Cup, handed out to the champions of the PHF, was won by the Toronto Six in dramatic fashion. An overtime win over the Minnesota Whitecaps, Evan's besties.
Wah, wah.
Yeah, Evan and I were texting about this, and it was like, if the Whitecaps were going to lose, at least they lost to not Boston.
Yeah, and at least they beat Boston. Like, congrats to them. Like, well, turns out you can get a hot goaltender, and well, they have one. So good for them. Like, and congrats on a great season. It was really exciting. We are crowning a new champion, and boy, did they deserve it. Teresa Vanisova, who I've been a huge fan of since I just watched, I think it was like my first then NWHL game, and was like, who's that? They're fast.
I like them.
Yeah. Impact player.
Well, that's exactly how I think you get engaged into any sport, really. Like when I first decided, you know what? I should probably like soccer. It was like 2005, and I was watching like the English youth teams play because I knew in 2006 there would be a World Cup, and I wanted to like be excited about it. So I decided I needed a team, and I was watching Aaron Lennon just run around like a crazy person, being faster than everybody for the English youth setup. And I was like, who does he play for? Leeds United. What the fuck is that? Oh, he got bought by Tottenham Hotspur. First off, he got bought.
Didn't we get rid of slavery?
Oh, that seems oppressive. Okay, but Tottenham Hotspur, what's that going on? Oh, they're named after a Shakespearean character? English major, love.
Hotspur?
Yeah. Oh, Harry Hotspur.
Oh, I always thought it was a dick joke.
Well, everything in Shakespeare is a dick joke.
That's true. Ain't that the truth? Yeah, I assumed that the moment you feel like you have to learn soccer is like before you go study abroad in Europe.
Finding that one player is kind of like your gateway drug into a sport is what I was.
Yeah, for real.
And for Evan, he dove in on, he decided to be a Minnesota Whitecaps fan, but also kind of fell in love with the style of Teresa Vanasova, which is super easy to do. She's an incredible player and is so fun to watch.
It just does everything
Very
at an
fast.
insanely fast speed.
Yeah, like not to like compare anyone to the best hockey player in the world and Connor McDavid, but like there's an element of that to her game.
Exactly. I mean, I was kind of not wanting to make that comparison, but since you went there, it's like she just stands out.
Yeah,
on the ice.
When you're doing everything at an insanely fast pace, eventually somebody just watches you and goes, I like you. I'm going to watch you play hockey.
Well, and she's become, more of a complete player over the past couple of years that we've been watching too. And I mean, arguably found her biggest moment in this final, pocketing a goal in overtime off of the forecheck. Like, speed kills.
Yeah.
And Teresa Vanasova has lots of it.
And that was how she created the championship winning goal out of nothing. It's a quick forecheck in the corner and pulls the puck away from the Whitecaps defender and then beats Amanda Levier. And
it's just hard to do.
Yeah, it's a self-made goal. Like there's no help, there's no assistance. It's just Teresa Vanasova going, I'm going to do this. Watch me do this.
All your championships belong to us.
Exactly. I'm only basing all of these things, these statements from the PHF championship game on watching replays that I've found online because fortunately, but unfortunately, I was hanging out with my niece and nephew this weekend in California and didn't get to watch any hockey, and missing the PHF championship game was a real bummer. One thing I will say about it is it was not as well attended as you might think it could be. Like just looking through Twitter and other the Reddit and other mediums, you realize that most people didn't know the game was happening. And that's the real bummer because it took forever and a day for the PHF to decide to have their championship game or where they were going to have their championship game.
Was that the thing? Like they were just taking too long?
They announced it like 6 weeks ago.
No, I know. I've just always wondered like why it was so delayed. So I'm wondering like, did they just take too long planning it? Like, did they have did maybe a stadium deal fall through? Like there seems like there must be some reason why people only got like a 3-week notice to where the championship was going to be and when. Like, you don't even have time to quit your job in this economy to get there. They want 6 weeks.
Yeah, and first off, if your job wants 6 weeks, fuck them.
True that.
Second off,
that's not enforceable in most states.
Yeah, and third off, like you also saw this with media who wanted to cover that game. Like, you didn't give us enough time to get the tickets that were cheap to go. We're not being paid well enough to buy a $700 ticket to Tempe. Like,
I'm going to roll the dice on Frontier to see if I make it.
And also with all of your limbs intact, like
I literally flew here with my arms.
Yeah. On Frontier, they're like, okay, have you ever flown a plane before? And you're like, no, not at all. They're like, good enough. Get in the front.
No, it's like,
you're up.
It's like Snowpiercer, where they stick the person's arm out the side of the thing through a hole, but they're made to flap it.
But it's actually
we need to get to 30,000. Come on, push it, people.
It's the entire plane,
right? Well, it's one arm, and
yeah,
I mean,
people
don't want window seats anymore.
I've always been an aisle guy, so I completely understand. If we make that change, I'll be fine. I'll be comfortable and warm.
I love me some window seat, especially that left side, so I can just put the whole plane on mute.
But in all seriousness, congratulations to the Toronto Six. They were one of the best teams all year. You could make an easy case for them being the best team all year, and them in Boston were kind of neck and neck for most of the season.
Showing that free agency works, showing that you can retool a team pretty quickly in this league and win it all, and also showing that you can start a team in this league and win it all within 4 years. How long?
3 years.
3 years, yeah.
Like,
Montreal's got to
Montreal's on the clock.
Licking their chops like, oh, we can win. Ooh, hey, yes. So going from...
How do you say Isobel in French? Isobel. Oh, well, bring her here.
So going from some great news about women's hockey to some pretty damning news about women's hockey. Katie Strang
and Hailey Salvian.
Both...
two of our favorites.
Did a pretty awesome investigative reporting job talking about this very nuanced story just about issues within the Harvard women's hockey program. And, they're kind of long-reaching consequences. I mean, Jenner and Block have gotten involved, the law firm that it investigates everything that Katie Strang and Rick Westhead seem to uncover. So
they're on retainer. Like Rick Westhead goes, hey, I'm looking at this thing, and Jenner and Block goes, just let us know when you're done.
Yeah. Just, you got the number.
Can you give us a heads up? No? That's fair enough. Yeah. Their new Katie Strang and Hailey Salvian's newest report is largely centered around hazing and like a kind of a culture of malfeasance in the Harvard women's hockey program. Harvard,
are they good academics? Is that how I know of them?
No, you just get in if your parents pay enough money. Yeah. It's like, isn't that right, Aunt Becky? No, the Harvard women's hockey, who is famously coached by Katie Stone, who is the winningest women's hockey coach of all time, at least in NCAA levels. I think she's been at Harvard for like 27, 28 years. A lot came out about this culture of hazing, this culture of really just kind of creating a culture of awkwardness. I think
it seems fratty. Yeah. This seems like, so they would have initiation week, which, fine if you want to like lightly haze people like they do sometimes in the NFL or NBA and make them, get things for LeBron and stuff, like fine. But they did, skits that made people uncomfortable, put people in awkward positions, because it's a professional environment. So you have women that are coming in and they want to do their best job, and they're made to be like put condoms on bananas like it's fucking health class, and fake orgasms, and
there's
consume alcohol, but consuming alcohol against your will, like that's not something that should happen. So yeah, it like
open questions about players' sexuality and kind of degrading them based off of their sexual proclivities.
Yeah, they describe a naked skate at the hockey center, which like sounds like fun and games until you hear that they were made to like slide naked on the ice. Like that's not cool. And
I don't
like making people get naked for camaraderie from a coaching level is also wrong, and
it's
wrong
super
from
bush league.
It is what frats do at state universities across the United States. You should not be put through that kind of hazing bullshit to play a women's sport, to play a sport, period. Like, we know hazing goes on in men's sports as well. And this shouldn't fly there either. You know, I don't want to slide naked and get my junk on the ice. Like, that does not sound like a good time. And so, yeah, it's known that, like, Stone was aware of this and called it an unsanctioned activity. And obviously didn't punish anybody.
And seemed to be kind of the, like, distance ringleader of it all.
And, like, players have also described a fine system, which at Harvard, I would imagine fines would be in the, like, tens of thousands of dollars for being late. And, you know, sometimes women would be fined for having a boyfriend or for the clothes they wore or whatnot. And some players identified some racial components to that, having to pay a gay tax or an Asian tax.
I want to pretend we're past and beyond and above, but, like, as Evan and I continue our descent into the doldrums of hockey, we realize that, like, no, we're just scratching the surface of the evil here. Like, everything that is presented in this article is, like, none of it is horrific. Like, none of it gets to, like, the level of, like, rape or...
Yeah, you know. I mean, I feel like this shit happens at investment banks. I mean, just extensions of frats.
This happens at your local key bank branch.
No, yeah, like, you know, describing, like, mental health Hunger Games.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to make that titillating.
Right.
Like, that's never going to work up to the highlight or work up to the headline of Naked Skate. But that's the worst part of it, is when you create a culture of fear, hatred, antagonism, and, you know, kind of professional anxiety. You don't usually win very well. You usually end up like Mike Babcock and in, you know, the
Saskatchewan.
Yeah, right. In the middle of nowhere, pining away, hoping to get back into the NHL.
If Mike Babcock was a song by the Guess Who, he would be running back to Saskatoon.
Not that we haven't made that joke in prior episodes.
I don't care, and I love that song.
It's a great joke.
Who gives a shit?
It is a good song, too. But yeah, if Jenner and Block comes a calling, generally, you're not going to have a good time.
If Katie Strang is writing an article about your program, you fucked.
And I'm sure people are wondering, where's Rick Westhead in all this? Why isn't his byline right next to Katie Strang and Hailey Salvian? And, well, because Rick Westhead was busy, friends. Yeah. Rick Westhead was busy reporting on Admission Gate come to hockey. Apparently, the OHL commissioner has confirmed that they have hired their own investigators, not Jenner and Block, to look at allegations that hockey parents paid for their children to be selected in the OHL draft. So for the uninitiated, this is going from, like, completely amateur travel hockey to the junior system. So according to him, 3 GTHL, that would be Grand Theft Hockey League. Greater Toronto Hockey League coaches have possession of texts confirming payments upwards of $30,000. So, like, that's a small fine to a Harvard initiative. No, it's Canadian, so that's just pocket
Katie
change,
Stone
right?
is like $30K.
Yeah, whatever. That's what kids get for being late. But still,
for having an Asian boyfriend.
Yeah. At Harvard, who'd have thought?
Never.
Nepotism in hockey, who'd have thought? Like, it's Aunt Becky, but on skates.
Oh, Lori Laughlin, you minx.
She always looked very confused as she was, like, coming out of courthouses and then like going to prison. She's like, why am I here?
How could I possibly be here? I was a rich actress who married a very wealthy man.
Right.
We don't go to prison. And I'm like,
it's like you could see her expecting the privilege to escape her from that situation.
And it's like, if you had been better at the bicycle boogie scene in Rad, then this never would have happened. But, you know, you criticized crew for over rotating, and that's fucking embarrassing. And I'm just kidding. I love that movie more than most things on this planet. So whatever. It's really fucking obvious.
Yeah. It's like the OHL investigates the sky being blue, but at the same time, like this shit shouldn't happen.
You just see like Principal Skinner with like his hand to his forehead looking over things and being like, oh, things are bad? No way. I don't do a Principal Skinner in person.
The children hate me? Oh, they're wrong.
Yeah, it must be.
What's that fucking meme?
I don't know. Regardless, like this whole fucking thing is so obvious and stupid, and you know the OHL and the QMJHL have had their issues, and like the Q just banned fighting, which we think is a positive step, but like the backlash to that decision has been swift and very Karen-esque. This is just more of the same. The GTHL has had a bunch of issues come up in recent weeks, and like, first off, it seems like Ontario just needs to get its head out of its ass. Like, but I think the big lesson here is that the corruption and the just filth in hockey is top to bottom.
Yeah, and it's almost good that we're seeing more of these maybe smaller, more normalized things getting investigated. You know, whether it's hazing at Harvard or this, like, you know, these are things that unfortunately have become fairly normal to a lot of hockey fans, and they aren't right. And so it's about fucking time that some of these things start to get reported on and investigated. And I think that does maybe represent a small possibility for progress, like, at least.
The more fans who go, oh, they made him spread his urethra and shove icy hot into his dick as like a method of gaining ice time, that seems fucked up. The more people who say that, the better, right? And so, like, if we can move forward in this and say, you know what, like, this sort of bullshit just really doesn't fly, and it doesn't bring a team together. It doesn't make that's the great misconception, right? Like, hazing has never brought a team together. Like, nobody's like, man, we need to rally around Pete because he got a corn cob shoved up his asshole. Nobody's ever done that. Like,
no. And like in fact, in my high school, when things were alleged about the rival high school, we like used that to our shit talking advantage and like brought the objects that were associated with the endeavor to like mock them. Like,
yeah.
It's like, it starts this whole
dildos on a pike.
Right. It starts this whole fucking cascade of bad. And I don't know.
I just think that, like, if you can't motivate a team without like demonizing somebody on that team, like, you're the part of the problem. I remember being in high school and we had a substitute teacher one day, and the roster reports in our classes cut off first names after four letters. And so my name on any roster report was JACO. And this substitute teacher goes, like, trying to curry favor with the whole class, goes, if I screw up your name, please let me know. I'm pretty sure like Mr. Monty doesn't want to be known as Jacko. And I raise my hand and he goes, yes. And I go, and I'm pretty sure you don't want to be known as Fuckhead. And he goes, excuse me? I go, yeah, fuck you. And he goes, you can fucking leave. And I was like, okay. So I like packed up my books, went to the office, and they're like, Jake, why are you here again? And I was like, and I told them, and that guy never substitute taught in my high school ever again. And it's like stop picking on people in an effort to like endear camaraderie. Like build camaraderie by like creating relationships and friendships, like a team that pushes through tribulations together, that aren't like forced through like whipping your players on the ice or making their nipples bleed from sliding on it. Like a team that builds camaraderie through actual trials and tribulations is much stronger than a team that like built their camaraderie because like Tommy had to show his dick to the team or like Alyssa's nipples bled after a free skate. Like none of that shit actually fosters community. In fact, it really does the exact opposite. And if you read the Harvard piece, like lots of players transferred out of Harvard.
Okay.
Lots of players.
I mean, I'm sure.
And like
totally only due to academics, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, the classes were too hard. Freshman Latin was just too much for me. Also,
wasn't my nipples bleeding. Yeah.
It wasn't the bleeding nipples. It was definitely freshman Latin. And the same goes for the OHL, like this corruption, this like just like bullshit fostering of an advantage, like breaking that down and like destroying those barriers that are created by rich people paying for their sons to get drafted only helps to increase the game. Because if you don't have to have $30K in order for your son to get drafted in the first round, your actually talented at hockey son might have a chance of getting drafted and like have a chance at a promising career when hockey is gatekept by the fact that it's an extremely expensive sport.
And you know that capitalism is starting to, how shall we say, get its tentacles too far outside the box when it starts to really come into these spaces that should more or less be the closest thing to meritocracy we have. But yeah, we know that it's not, and we've become kind of accustomed to this, sort of hierarchy and the rich being able to pay their way into things. And we've become a little bit too insensitive to the harm that this can actually cause. And so, I hope that something comes of this, because it seems like maybe it's one of those things that might fizzle out.
At some point, Barron Trump is going to be the starting quarterback for the Washington Commanders. And he's just going to get broken by a giant black dude coming off the edge. And Donald Trump will use that as his reasoning for banishing black people from the United States.
I thought Barron Trump was into soccer. He'll like play as many caps for the U.S. national team as Josie Altidore.
I hope he gets slide tackled by Cootie Romero and he just breaks his fucking knee.
So raised for comment about the Michigan story, LeVar Ball said, "Wow, that's cheap."
Speaking of cheap, Andrew Barraway, the minority owner of the Arizona Coyotes, paid only $2,500 in personal recognizance bonds in order to get out of custody after allegedly strangling his wife.
Wowza.
And by allegedly, we mean he totally fucking did it.
OJ's like, where can I get his lawyer?
Yeah. Where can I get his isotoners?
Andrew Barraway, similar to LeVar Ball, in that they're people you just heard of but now dislike.
Yeah. This fucking guy, his wife when asked for comment, was like, no, I want a full fucking protection order. There was no like, oh, I probably made him mad and I shouldn't have. It was like, no, fuck this guy. He's a piece of shit. He strangled me and we're living in separate houses. And if he comes anywhere near me, I will stab him in the neck with a knife. I will stab him in the neck with a knife. She didn't say that part. I added that last part, especially the gaff earlier. But like, I'm going to leave that whole thing in. But like,
that's what I was going to ask.
Neck
for.
Knife. But like, for what, decades now, we've just seen this kind of ridiculousness out of
rich people.
That's been going on
decades, centuries.
That's been going on since man created currency.
Yeah.
The continuous theme here is that the Arizona Coyotes are owned by a bunch of fucking douche bros. And nothing's more douche bro than strangling your fucking wife. And
it like crazy that it has resulted in very little in terms of consequences for him.
Or news, really. Yeah. Like, we didn't get a Gary Bettman, we're aware of the allegations, and my dad genes say he's probably in trouble. Like, we didn't get anything like that. It's just like, maybe it's because he's only a minority owner, and nobody likes minorities in the NHL. So,
no, I'll tell you why it is. It's because in their lease with Arizona State, the Coyotes have a good behavior clause. I think because Arizona State is aware of the quality of the douche bros that own the Coyotes. And so this may actually put the Coyotes' lease in jeopardy.
Oh, boy. So I hadn't read that part, and I'm just hearing it for the first time, and yay.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's maybe good for the Coyotes in the long run. Like, hey, we have no home. We got to build a new one. Quick.
Nothing gets the Coyotes to Houston faster than their minority owner strangling his wife.
Yeah.
That's a weird piece of karma that I don't want to be even remotely a part of.
Yeah, it's very, very strange, but actually has some weird long-term possible consequences for where, like, what the hell happens with this team. Because I mean, minority owner of the Coyotes is worth what, like a fine at Harvard for being late? Like, how much did this guy pay into the Coyotes? Like $10? How much money is in the banana stand?
$36.50. $36.50
Canadian.
Yeah,
about $3.50.
It's which is like 12 kroner. I don't know exchange rates. I'm just making that up. Also, I mean, slightly less awful behavior, but also noteworthy. The annual / also continuous winner of the Piss Baby Supreme Award, Jordan Bennington, picked him up a 2-game ban for leaving his crease during a scrum and punching Ryan Hartman in the face with his blocker. Minnesota, the Wild scored a goal against Jordan Bennington, which happens quite frequently. His save percentage is well under 0.9. And he, after the goal, like, Ryan Hartman kind of skated through the crease to go celebrate the goal, and Jordan Bennington came over and just cold cocked him in the face, which created this huge melee. Of course, I mean, it's hockey, like, things like this create melees. The interesting part about this, Marc-Andre Fleury crossed the center ice line and tried to fight Jordan Bennington, and the refs stopped them. And all of hockey went, no.
Yeah, please.
Like, if ever there was somebody that you wanted to beat the piss out of Jordan Bennington, it's like the nicest man, Marc-Andre Fleury, just ground and pounding Jordan Binnington in center ice in St. Louis. Like,
so reportedly, Marc-Andre Fleury has like a bucket list for his NHL tenure, and it like includes getting in a fight. He has, I think when he was drafted, he said, yeah, I want to score a goal, I want to get in a fight, and there was something else. And I think he's like done both except for getting a fight. And that's part of the reason that everyone was like, no, we want this to happen.
And also
we just want somebody to beat Jordan Binnington.
Yeah, if somebody beats the piss out of Jordan Binnington, like he would just then be Le Baby Supreme because there'd be no piss left in his little shitty body.
Love it. Also, like transitory property. I can understand wanting to beat up Ryan Hartman a little bit.
Oh, sure, but it's not so much about the act of punching Ryan Hartman in the face. It's that who punched Ryan Hartman
exactly.
in the face.
Who's doing it and
he did it with the blocker, which is pretty low. Like, take the blocker off and cold cock. If I were a goalie, I'd absolutely use the blocker, but I'm a douchebag. So like
no, I mean, I think the blocker punch is like, that's the
oh no, that would hurt like crazy.
Yeah, but it's usually on a helmeted head.
No, if you hit somebody straight on, like into the mouth or nose with a blocker, that would do real damage.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We had, we had a big suspension for that at Beer League.
One more reason for me to always wear a full cage, because I get a little mouthy from time to time.
Ah, do we now? Who would have thought?
My point is, I'm doing a lot better with my anger and my frustration.
You know who isn't? James Reimer. Speaking of petulant children, James Reimer took a lot of heat off on Ivan Provorov by becoming the poster child for anti-gay sentiments in the NHL Pride Night debacle that we are going through right now. He publicly declined to wear a Pride warm-up jersey. Not even in the game. Just practice. And publicly so took his stance against rainbows. So I'm just wondering, like, which goalie can we have fight him? Like, would it be Marc-Andre Fleury again? The Flower? That's, I feel like he's been pretty outspoken in terms of his social stance.
Let's bring back Olaf Kolzig. Dude was huge.
Let's call up Kosa. Let's call up Sebastian Kosa just to.
Oh God, he's
James Reimer's
so
ass.
massive.
That's what I mean.
Or
Ben Bishop does one last solid.
Ben Bishop's like, I don't have knees, but I'll beat the fuck out of this dude.
But I got fists.
Or we could just call Braden Holtby out of retirement.
Because he would come back
because he is a champion of all that is good, and I think would gladly beat the piss out of both James Reimer and Jordan Binnington. Jordan Binnington on a technicality because he just doesn't like bad people, and James Reimer because he's a bigot.
I think, I mean, Washington's tanking, so what better to pair with the Ovechkin goal record chase than the Braden Holtby beatdown tour?
We should just start a like claymation celebrity death match,
but only goalies,
and only Braden Holtby just beating the piss out of people.
No, I mean, celebrity goalie death match would be great. Like, we get fucking like Tim Thomas versus Roberto Luongo.
Roberto Luongo. Does he show up as Italian businessman or as retired NHL goalie?
Both.
And Hall of Famer.
They're actually just two separate characters on our show.
It's a tag team.
Right.
Just against Tim Thomas.
Yeah, and we have a phone booth for him to change in.
And he's there like, I'm not going to go see Obama.
Side note about Roberto Luongo. There was a very funny video that came out the other day in which he's like watching one of his team goalies sit in for like one of these hockey skill TikTok guys, like just like shootout specialists. And the shootout specialist is like talking to him, is like, okay, you know, how hard should I go on your goalie? And yeah, the guy's about to, perform some dangles in his goalie and is like, so how hard should I go? And Roberto's like, go all the way. And then he just like does something crazy lacrosse goal, stupid thing that these guys do. And it's just like, you felt bad for the goalie.
I don't feel bad for James Reimer, however.
Absolutely.
So,
and good for the Sharks for just fucking putting him out in front of it instead of hiding him, instead of the players around him, laundering his hateful decisions behind the team. Like they just said, nah, you're not worth that trouble. You go fucking face the music, buddy. And he's received the kind of backlash that he deserves. So
here's what I'll say. If you are hiding behind your quote unquote Christian values in order to hate gay people, you're not actually a Christian.
No.
There's nothing within Christianity that legitimately actually says gay people are evil and you should hate them.
Correct.
And so,
whereas the Bible also gives you like a specific method with which to perform an abortion.
Yeah. And also like how to not get fucking haircuts because it's against God's will.
And also, if you're menstruating, you can't sit on a chair.
Yeah. And like, you know what? Just don't ever eat fish. So like, except on this day. So like, let's stop pretending that God or Jesus Christ gives a fuck about dudes having sex with each other or women having sex with each other or non-binary folks or transgender folks. Like, let's stop pretending that they give a shit like in a demonstrative way. Like, if you are a Christian, then those are all of God's children and they are to be treated with respect and kindness and gratitude and compassion instead of like just fucking hating them and not wearing a fucking jersey.
In warm-ups.
Yeah. The thing that I really want to say here though is that what all of these players and these teams are signifying is that they are in fact bigoted, because you are not supporting a gay lifestyle by wearing a jersey. What you're saying is that you should feel welcome in our arenas and in our sport. And all these people are like, who are like against wearing the jersey, are like, well, it's his Christian beliefs. It's his Christian beliefs. But like, that shouldn't preclude you from making people feel welcome in your arena.
Right. You don't have a right to make other people feel unwelcome.
It's inherently unchristian to make people feel unwelcome.
Yeah, it is.
Like, love thy fucking neighbor, you sacks of shit. Like,
I love that verse.
Yeah, that's my favorite verse in the entire fucking Bible, and it was written by Charles Bukowski. Is like the Stahl brothers, James Reimer, all these like, and you know what? I don't actually know if it's Russian players who are the problem. I wouldn't be surprised if it was just teams hiding behind the fact that they have Russian players, when dozens of Russian NHLers have had no problem whatsoever wearing Pride jerseys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like James Reimer's Russian teammates wore fucking Pride jerseys.
And to kind of skip ahead a little bit, that's almost maybe the most shameful for me is like what Chicago did. Even after Connor Murphy, to his credit, said, we better be wearing these fucking jerseys, they decided not to wear them. And I don't know if they publicly or released sidebar, but it was about this Russian law that people were afraid of. And like, that is such bullshit. I don't even have words. Like, since when are we afraid of Russian laws?
I guarantee you Jonathan Taves conveniently forgot about it, though.
Well, he might have dementia at this point. Nobody knows. But it's bonkers that Pride Nights is what it takes to like ruin the reputation of the Stahl brothers, who like Eric Stahl has worn a Pride jersey in Montreal before,
despite his protestations otherwise.
Yeah, it's on video.
I've never worn a Pride jersey. Here's the video of you wearing a Pride jersey. I've never worn a Pride jersey.
And it's like, yeah, apparently he was so traumatized by that experience that he doesn't want to wear one in Florida.
So traumatized by getting raped by his priest that,
yeah, that's the other thing.
Yeah.
And obviously not coincidentally, the karma gods have weighed in, and since that, Florida has been on a giant fucking skid.
They haven't won a game since.
And they're going to miss the playoffs.
Good. Which sucks because that means the Islanders make the playoffs, but at the same time, good riddance.
Yeah. I mean, this is like changing the swing of how we like and dislike players so quickly, because I mean, I had James Reimer on my fantasy team, like hoping he was going to get traded to a contender, and nope. Maybe this is why. But also, like the Stahls, like I've had a huge respect for the Stahls, and now I'm like, eh.
Yeah, and like a lot of this is also being tied back to a group that I think most hockey fans had no fucking idea existed.
I have no fucking idea this exists. And this sounds like an MLM.
It sounds like a fucking cult too.
Sure.
Hockey Ministries International, which has stated that they are presenting the Christian message to the hockey world since 1977. Have you seen hockey?
It's so in need of Christian proselytizing.
There's been one Muslim guy to win a Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
One. In like 100 years. But we really need to get the Christian word out.
And to his credit, said Muslim guy pretty quick to get behind the whole Pride Night thing.
Yeah. Despite the fact that other people were like, oh, Nazem Kadri's not wearing a Pride Night jersey. He's like, are you sure? Because I'm wearing one right now.
And especially
eat some shit.
Because that's in fucking Calgary for a team coached by your angry Uncle Chad. Like,
yeah. In a like cowboy bumpkin city in northern Alberta. Like they, as a team, wore their fucking Pride jerseys, and they were actually really sweet.
Yeah, a lot of the Pride jerseys are sweet. Like the styling on these is awesome. These guys are giving up a sweet sweater to not participate. And like Dallas managed one. And even like Jamie Benn, noted non-pussy taster, gave us a reason to dislike him slightly less by coming out in support publicly of Pride Night and the concept, and like very nicely explaining the concept in an interview.
Yeah, and like talked about Brian Burke and his statements about how like these events aren't about foregoing your Christian beliefs. They're about telling people that they are included within your arenas. Back to the Hockey Ministries International thing. So James Reimer and the Stahls are a big part of this Hockey Ministries International. And like, if you look at their website, you kind of cringe and your dick shrivels a little bit. And, it's fucking awful. But like the thing that I've noticed the most about it is that right on the front of their website is John Van Beesbrook. And if you don't know this about John Van Beesbrook,
he's not a popular actor from the 90s?
He called Trevor Daley the N-word while he was his coach.
Yeah.
Like, he's not a good person. And he's like, Jesus just wants to be part of your life. Jesus is fucking dead. He doesn't want anything.
Jesus doesn't like this shit.
He's fucking dead.
If Jesus had preferences...
He died twice.
Would actively not like this shit.
Yeah.
And
Jesus didn't die for you to be a fucking bigot. Like,
right. So this is like the hockey version of like Amy Coney Barrett's People of Praise cult. Like,
it really is.
We're gonna take whatever space we exist in and make it more bigoted and hateful. Like that is what they exist for. It has nothing to do with Jesus. It has nothing to do with faith. It has everything to do with nationalism and race and making sure that the other stays out of where you don't want them.
And on the exact opposite side of that, the Vancouver Canucks.
Props where props go.
They have announced that they are going to host a full-on drag show.
Hell yeah. Hope it's brunch.
As part of their Pride Night festivities. We'll just get this out there. Vancouver's ownership sucks.
Yeah. And their franchise reportedly has its own pretty serious issues in the front office. I mean, even without talking about the roster part of the front office,
right?
Like, it's allegedly a pretty toxic workplace, and they're in the kind of gray middle of nothingness between rebuilding in the playoffs and their owner's a shithead and whatever. But they do know how to make a crowd-friendly statement sometimes, and this is a nice one. Where other teams are going the other way and canceling these, they're saying, no, we are going to double down and really, have a good time with this. And I can't get behind that more. Like, I joked, like, I hope they make it brunch because drag brunch is great. Like, drag brunch is...
Drag brunch, drag bingo. Mm-hmm. I'm fucking there.
It's super fun. Bring your kids. It's ridiculous that someone has to take Pride Night to another level because other people are just like failing. And I'm glad that somebody did that. I maybe would have expected it more out of some other franchises, but good for the Canucks. Like,
yeah, and while we're talking about drag, we here in the Portland metropolitan area would be remiss if we didn't say a shout out and an RIP to Darcel 15.
Mm-hmm. Much better than Darcel 14.
Yeah, Darcel 14 was kind of but Darcel 15 was a fucking
iconic drag queen.
We talk about drag queens. Darcel is the queen of drag here in Portland.
Darcel was a economic event.
An absolute fucking icon of this weird and sloppy ass city. Darcel has been was a drag queen for over 50 years, passed away this past week at 92 years of age. The legacy that they leave on the city of Portland is immeasurable. Mm-hmm. They have their own nightclub.
Oh yeah.
In Northwest Portland.
People's careers were made by Darcel.
Yes.
And certified the oldest drag queen performer as of 2016.
So has since long gotten past that milestone.
Anytime you were at Pride Parade, they were there. Anytime you went to see, there's one particular drag performance bar in Portland, and but they were there all the fucking time. And we've seen some honorifics happen. We got Northwest Darcel XV Street, which will sound very funny coming out of your Garmin.
If it's 2009.
Yeah, because it's very funny when...
Third right on Darcel XV Street.
Because anytime you put Google Maps up, and you're on Cesar Chavez, it's hilarious how it just butchers the street name and
Cesar Chavez. Yeah. We've both lived in Portland for we're not Portland natives, but we've both lived in Portland for quite some time.
I think that's like what it takes to be a native in some ways.
Yeah, is to move here.
Yeah, if you're here for a decade or so, you're just a native.
I think at this point I'm probably a native. Darcel 15 was an absolute icon of this city, and losing them honestly is kind of a huge blow to the city, because as Portland becomes more corporate and more expensive and more homogenized, somebody who gave voice to an oftentimes marginalized culture and people's passing away is a huge blow to the city. And so on a very real and non-sarcastic and non-joking level, RIP, like this is, it's honestly a big blow to the city that we call home. And as somebody who has experienced many a drag show at this point and loved every one of them, and just really appreciates how they are the most obvious and most welcoming avenue into queer culture. Mm-hmm. Something that I'm a heterosexual cisgendered white male, but I also want to like be an ally and be a partner in life with folks who have been disenfranchised by like other people who have the same identities that I do. Losing an icon of this nature is really hard, especially in a time where drag is really being vilified across the country and really just become a hot button item for just foolishly misinformed and bigoted douchebags across the country. And so losing Darcel's voice is a big loss. And
yeah, and I feel bad that they had to pass away in the midst of this, I don't know, stupid crisis that's been manufactured in America around drag performers, because what Darcel believed in was just showing everyone around them a good time. And I just kind of realized this, but the first drag show I ever went to was Darcel and company. And like, it was an absolute riot. I didn't exactly know what I was getting into. It was maybe like a tiny bit outside my comfort zone, but it was like, no, this rocks. This is super fun. It's campy. It's sing-alongy. It's like, it was just a riot. I remember going to that club and just like what it looked and felt like to be shown a drag show for my first time. And like, yeah, I can't understand why people can't realize that it's just a non-sexual performance. Like it like they play with gender, sure, but like sex is generally a side portion of any sort of drag show. And it's not like there's nudity.
It's a spectacle.
Right. It's just people in costume. And it's about the ridiculousness of the costume and the ridiculousness of the spectacle. And yeah, that drag is under fire in America today just underscores how America doesn't understand what the fucking point is. And the point is just to have fun. The point is to be yourself. And the point is to be liberated. Things that a lot of Americans can't get behind. But yeah, Darcel definitely did. And hats off to an amazing career. May you rest well.
Rest in rhinestones.
Cheers to that.
As the Florida Room so aptly put, rest in rhinestones. All right, we're back into it. Speaking of not back into it or out for the season, Andrei Svechnikov, which is honestly a real bummer. One of my favorite players. He hits He scores goals. He's a menace.
He's
hits. Big.
He scores goals. He's a menace.
He does all the things.
Sunday. Yeah.
Someday.
Someday he will be back.
Yeah. He's Carolina's probably was the best hope for the anybody but Boston crew in the NHL coming out of the East. And granted, Carolina's played very well without him, but not having Andrei Svechnikov when your team has a history of not scoring in the playoffs, not great, Bob.
Yeah, not great. Exciting young player. He's the guy who perennially you think, oh my God, he's that young?
Yeah. He's still 23?
Right. Whereas somehow Max Domi became 28 in a hurry. I don't know how that happened. But yeah, one of the best scoring threats from a team that can use some scoring. It kind of sucks to see. Unless you're one of our Boston fan friends. Something we are a little bit sorry about. The QMJHL banned fighting. On
one side, there's the classic hockey guy in me who's oh, fighting is part of the game. And then on the realistic, futuristic side of me, I'm but does it have to be?
Yeah, it on its face seems extreme, and then the more you get into it, the more it makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that I understand fighting in the NHL and even the AHL.
Sure. And even the ECHL.
Sure.
If you are
actual professional league, and
exactly.
I'm not calling the Q or the O or the WHL a professional league.
And I can
in that regard
understand it on some levels in Major Junior, but it happens too frequently at the lower levels of Major Junior to be justifiable. And, at that point, enough of these kids aren't going to make it to their lifelong dream that we need to be protecting their heads for their earning potential for the rest of their lives. And, well, that starts with this move that the Q has done. And I don't know. I'm also a little conflicted about it, but definitely on the side of this is the right decision.
Yeah, this comes from I think a very progressive outlook. The Q brought in a new commissioner, Mario Cecchini, and this is the first new commissioner they've had in 37 years. And part of their kind of campaign to become the commissioner of the Q was based off of getting rid of fighting in their league. And they had a quick interview with The Athletic in which they said, we obviously have to improve these. We obviously have to improve on these situations and even eliminate them in some cases. In instances about fighting and also hazing, in which, we've seen a lot of reports coming out of the Q lately about issues in hazing. Well, the CHL in general, but also very specifically the Q. And he, kind of postulated, how do you make a culture change? And answered, with a lot of determination, a lot of conviction, and a lot of precision and clarity in how you expect everyone to behave. For me, that's going to be paramount.
So the professional version of very carefully.
Yeah. And Mario's going to have to toe a hard line because there are hundreds upon hundreds of old ass dudes who expect to go to a QMJHL game and see them rough them up.
Yeah. Don Cherry, when reached for comment, said,
only Canada for Canadians. So this is a huge moment. It's kind of, for those of us who see fighting, well, let me start though. Regardless of how you see fighting as part of the game, this is kind of a watershed moment. We're getting closer and closer to the NHL as leagues continue to ban fighting. And, I completely understand the idea and the axiom that fighting allows hockey to police itself.
Yeah, in some ways.
In some ways,
it also makes it more likely that it spirals out of control.
Right. Yeah. There's two sides to that sword.
Right.
Both of which are sharp.
I've always thought of that argument as like, really? Nah. Like, sure, you can police some stuff with the threat of fighting, but like that is about the same effect as the death penalty, and that
the Cold War,
right? It's arguably better without it. I think what he said about like how do you make a culture change is really prescient in hockey. I mean, like,
real fascinating.
Yeah, we could put that in the banner for our podcast. Like, this is exactly the kind of forward-thinking, creative problem solving that this game needs in order to make it safer, more popular, more likely for like moms to be okay with their kids playing. And yeah, I want to applaud this difficult decision. And I hope that there isn't a huge blowback to this.
There absolutely will be, I'm sure. But I think not bowing in the face of that pressure is really the ultimate test here.
Right.
And I'd love to see the 58-year-old white dude yelling like, I need to see the kids fight. And it's like, they're 16 years old, man. Like,
yeah. And it's one thing if it really is sort of confined to the back corners of hockey, but at these lower levels in Canada, it's not, because this is a way into professional levels. As brutal as it is, like, you can still get into, the NHL system on the basis of physicality. I mean, you can also get in on the basis of being like 6'7" on skates too, but like it's seen as maybe an antiquated way into the system, but it is a way into the system. And you know what other system like brings you in as an enforcer is the mob.
I was just about to say the mob.
And so, that we can remove the necessary brutality from the unnecessary brutality is a step forward in the game.
Yeah, even without fighting, hockey is still a high impact, high contact sport.
Right.
And that's never going to change. Mm-hmm. Checking is not going to just go away. And I think the NHL and, coaches and players at younger levels really do a good job in this. Like, yes, we see concussions in the NHL and in hockey, but not even remotely as close as the amount we see in the NFL. And that's despite the fact that the collisions in the NHL are generally at higher speeds than the NFL. And so I think there is a culture of kind of protection that already exists in hockey. And you see that when somebody crosses the line and becomes dangerous, that the fight is one of the ways to remind that person that they have crossed the line. And so it'll be interesting to see how hockey evolves moving forward in policing that crossing the line, because, you're skating at anywhere from like 20 to 25 miles per hour. with a full head of steam at 6'3", 250 into the boards, that's a massive collision.
Yeah, you can have that without fighting. You can have that sort of retaliation aspect of the game just with the rote physicality that already exists.
Yeah, and so that is going to be the real question, I think, for how hockey moves forward. And do I think we'll get to a point where the NHL doesn't have fighting? Not really. Yeah, but I think taking it out of the lower levels and taking that sort of punishment off the table for these lower levels is a smart move, because it really allows players to mature from a skill aspect without having to worry about getting punched in the back of the head by Todd Bertuzzi.
Right. Or, getting upended with a giant line brawl. Like, this also is a check against coaching malfeasance at these levels, because too many coaches over the years have resorted to, okay, let's just beat the shit out of the other team as some sort of quasi-legal solution when it should never have that opportunity. And, there's a reason that Goon 2 was called the last of the enforcers. Like, the fucking writing is on the wall. John Scott retired and is now a podcaster and has not been replaced.
Yeah. You're absolutely right, Evan. I think it's time to, and I think we're seeing this as the NHL moves more towards a skill and speed, as the athletes get better, as the skill level increases. You're seeing a move away from the pure enforcer. I don't even know if there is like a pure enforcer in the NHL so much anymore.
No, Gary Bettman won't allow it because it might end up with him being embarrassed.
It might crease his dad genes.
Yeah. What? Yeah. They elected the enforcer to the All-Star game? Call Batman.
So I applaud this move. I'm definitely somebody who, growing up, the fighting in hockey was part of the allure. But as I've aged, it's less and less a part of the game that I enjoy.
Yeah, people will send me clips of hockey fights, and I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. Like, occasionally there's one that's like interesting, and it's because it's either A, something funny happened, or B, it was like particularly brutal or lopsided.
Yeah. Or like the guy who you should expect to win didn't win.
Or somebody beat Tony D'Angelo. Like,
that honestly, like, if the NHL wanted to ban fighting, in the one exception should be beating up Tony D'Angelo.
But
if you lose to Tony D'Angelo, 5-game suspension.
Fighting in hockey is like the people that decide to become nudists. It's never the ones you want. So now from debating what is necessary violence to something that is unquestionably unnecessary violence. Carson Briere, son of Philadelphia Flyers GM Danny Briere, done did a stupid.
Yeah. Like, part of me, so I've watched the videos several times, and part of me was like, oh yeah, that's something a stupid college kid would do. But then the other part of me was like, that doesn't make it okay.
Yeah, so to fill in everyone, Danny Briere is not in hot water because Zion Provorov did something bigoted again, but because his son, Carson Daly Briere, took it upon himself to, in the dark corner stairwell of a bar, take the wheelchair of a patron and throw it down a flight of stairs.
Yeah, it came out later that this was the wheelchair of somebody who is very much crippled, and it wasn't like just sitting there for fun. It was somebody's actual mode of self-transportation.
Yeah, it's not grabbing one at an airport and tooling it around or using it to carry your luggage. Like, it's Yeah, this was somebody's property that they spent lots of money on because their insurance company, who's probably a bitch, and didn't cover the thing that they are supposed to cover. And yeah, it just speaks to the privilege that white male and white male hockey players think they operate with, and the impunity that they think they operate with. And thankfully, the backlash has been swift and it's been fairly vociferous.
Yeah. So I don't think we said this yet. Connor is a senior at Mercyhurst, which is is
that a real university?
Yeah, they're in the ECAC, I think.
Sounds like a pyramid scheme.
It
sounds more like a hospital than a university.
But like a hospital that you never leave.
Yeah, right. Mercyhurst, you can check out, but you can't ever leave.
Partake. They are part of the Atlantic Hockey Association. They're a Division I college ice hockey program. Carson Briere has been a part of that team for, I think, 4 years now. And he was like the freshman of the year 4 years ago.
Is he a legit prospect?
No.
Okay, good.
But like, he came out and said he was very sorry.
Of course.
Which is like, WASP for I'm sorry I got caught.
Yeah, he read those words off of a cue card that came from a PR firm.
Yeah, that is employed by the Philadelphia Flyers.
They just have him on retainer now.
Yeah, it's just another symptom of white privilege, hockey privilege, which are oftentimes one and the same.
And ableism. Let's not forget ableism.
Yeah. And so I'm very thankful that the backlash was swift in this one. Is Carson Briere probably a complete and total fuckhead? No. But did he do this shitty thing, and should he suffer consequences for doing this shitty thing? Yeah, absolutely. And there is also the chance that he is a complete and total fuckhead.
I was going to say the child of Danny Briere.
Danny Briere is a
non-zero percentage. He was a fuckhead of an on the ice player.
Yeah.
And in that, he was a pest. Should that carry through to our expectations for his child? No. Does it? Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, one kind of wishes that someone would pick a fight with him or throw him downstairs, see how he likes it.
What he needs to do is hold on. What he needs to do is steal Liam Neeson's daughter, and I'm sure that can be arranged real quick. Heading back to women's hockey, NWHL founder Ryland Kearney kind of broke their silence in an interview with Hailey Salvian in The Athletic about getting pushed out as commissioner, and kind of talked about the league altogether, where they left it, where it is now, what they are most proud of, etc. I think the thing that I got most out of this article was that they absolutely were pushed out because the ownership groups kind of came together and were like, get rid of this lady. Which kind of had devastating results when they, the next commissioner, they had Ty Tumminia, who did a great job trying to kind of hold things together in the wake of Ryland Kearney's absence. They just kind of stumbled along for a while, and it was kind of clear that ownership was running the league. And now, they have actual people in place, and it sounds like Ryland Kearney is not exactly thrilled with how they were summarily dismissed from the league.
No, and who would be?
But most notably by the Boyntons.
And, it does really speak to like the power struggles that exist within these types of nascent leagues and how birthing a new league in any sport is fraught with danger, both for the players and for the people involved in administrating it. Like it's not without challenge, and it's not without significant professional danger.
Yeah. And I think one of the big things that came out of this interview was that folks who were we'll say who had some sway in the then NWHL thought that Ryland was kind of the reason why there hadn't been more continuity and more kind of hand holding between the NWHL and the PWHPA and the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
And then so they got Ryland out of the way and they're like, now we can move forward. And then it turns out it wasn't her at all.
Yeah. Funny how that always tends to happen with organizations too. Like, hey, we got rid of the person we thought that was the problem. Oh, they're not. That wasn't the problem.
Drats. So it was just interesting to see kind of behind the curtain, so to speak, of like what went down. And Ryland, I think, was extremely still very gracious and very considerate, and
with a couple candid tidbits.
Yeah, but didn't throw up double birds and tell people to go their own way.
Which, I mean, that wasn't her style to begin with, so one wouldn't expect that.
I would of myself, but not so much of Ryland Kearney. And so that article is in The Athletic. Look for, if you are a subscriber, you can look for that article. Hailey Salvian wrote it, or conducted the interview and then wrote the article. Hailey Salvian is a fucking gem and one of the best hockey writers out there. So you should read pretty much everything that they print or write. Ryland Kearney was pushed out probably unfairly. So was JJ Watt.
Yeah. Pushed out of hockey, apparently, according to his tweet. Basically because his family didn't have the money to pay for it, which, it's not often that you find someone of his stature in the sports world talk about hockey, but everyone knows that JJ Watt would have been a freak to play against.
Probably the most destructive force in the history of hockey.
Yeah, like in the handful of clips you've seen of him skating, like, dude looks like he might have been good if he'd have been given the opportunity, but instead of the titanic battle that could have been JJ Watt versus Chara, he was steered towards football. Arguably
a much worse sport for your body and mental health.
Worse sport, but it's cheaper. Survey says cheaper. And he also, made the point like, hey, this is why soccer is the sport of the world, because all you need is a ball and something resembling a goal.
2 trees.
Yeah. And so I think that, when we talk about the issues with hockey culture, especially today, cost is becoming, even more of an issue every year as inflation goes up, as income inequality becomes more stark. The haves get even more over the have-nots. Like, we can only do so much with activism and with, well-meaning intentions when the economic table is tilted in one way. And so, it's good to see JJ Watt kind of put his neck out there for hockey and
for the betterment of hockey, talking about how like due to 6'5", 288, could you imagine?
Yeah, he would have been another Dustin Byfuglien. Just an absolute wrecking ball.
Without any compassion for other human beings on the ice.
Did Dustin Byfuglien have any compassion for human beings on the ice?
And like him leaving the league early is one of the like great sorrow stories from the last like 10 years of the NHL.
For sure, but that's because he wanted to drink and fish.
Yeah.
So, it can only be so sad for him.
Can you imagine if you just showed up to a beer league and Dustin Byfuglien was on the other team? I'd be like, no.
Apparently that happens, and
I'm out. I wash my hands of this. I'm moving to Topeka,
and
Kansas.
if you see pictures, Dustin Byfuglien's like every bit of 300 pounds right now.
Yeah,
and I'm sure he can still skate better than me. So,
without a doubt.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, what could have been with JJ Watt in hockey pads?
What could have been for Kasperi Kapanen in Pittsburgh? We'll never know because the Penguins jettisoned him as if he were just like
as if he were fuel out of a Russian fighter jet aimed at an American drone.
Ooh. I said we wouldn't get political in this. Wait, reads the rest of the script. Never mind. Kasperi Kapanen's, much to my delight as having picked him up off the waiver wire in fantasy hockey, he's been having a good time with the Blues. The Blues kind of like picked up some relatively disregarded folks, or people who had been kind of cast aside, and Kasperi Kapanen, Jacob Verana, and they've all been having a great fucking time in St. Louis. They all hate Jordan Binnington. They like got there and were like, yeah, this guy's as bad as we thought he was. But they're all having a really good time, scoring a bunch of goals, having like just kind of showing what other teams in the NHL either couldn't provide for them or were incapable of just like the opportunity.
Which, per Danny Shirley on Twitter, the opportunity is on the difference of like 5 minutes per game.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal if you're a skill guy like Kapanen is.
Probably getting pushed out in the future. Peter Lavalette in Washington. Rumors are that extension talks on his contract have gone cold.
Curiously like his coaching.
I'd love to say that in my best Dr. Freeze voice as Arnold. Like, we're going to put your contract talks on ice.
We are going to trade your whole team, except for Alexander.
For ice. This could play out in a lot of different ways.
But it's fair to say, he gone.
He probably gone, yeah.
What isn't going away, at least not yet, and this is super fucking funny to me, is Brooks Koepka Trouba Gate. Apparently, Brooks Koepka is a big Florida Panthers fan and was spotted at a Florida Panthers game on video with a traffic cone talking shit about Jacob Trouba. And there were some people that supposed that they were maybe like friends or something, and this was just some, friendly shit talking. And Trouba has come out and said, "We ain't friends." And oh yes, give me all the golfer versus hockey player tea. Like, I love it.
Especially since most hockey players are fairly solid golfers.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, maybe it's like a get off my lawn thing. Like, Trouba shot too well at the country club, and Koepka was like mad about the fact that he left the regular golf channels for the fucking Saudi murder golf network.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't hit hole in one this round? Guess what?
That's your arm.
We kill you.
Bonesaw time, buddy.
It's like you're a woman trying to drive.
Ooh.
Yeah, this is stupid is what it really is. But like
funny.
When it comes down to it, who are you going to put money on? Jacob Trouba. Like, if push comes to shove, isn't his girlfriend / now wife a surgeon? Like,
oh yeah, you think they just like form like a?
Yeah, no, they would just like sew him up and put him back out there.
She's like his boxing coach,
his cut man.
Yeah, right. Except she's got like
except
IV.
it's like an appendectomy.
Yeah, right. I mean, and you know, Brooks Koepka, noted jerk and beef haver with many people. It seems like maybe he's just a disaffected Panthers fan because Trouba has been bad.
Well, it's also like, you're a golfer. Shut the fuck up. Like,
yeah, that angle is
like
also...
I don't know how to say this more. Like, you have somebody carry your clubs for a living. Fuck you.
Yeah, which you know, isn't that the ultimate embarrassment in hockey, is if someone else carries your bag for you?
Oh, or your stick.
Right.
Like,
second most is if you have a bag on wheels and they say you don't have wheels. And when to that I say, yeah, no, I don't. I move slow as shit.
Very efficiently, but slow as shit.
Yeah, it's very funny in that also, like, I'm totally stealing this joke from the Athletic Hockey Show, but what if Jacob Trouba went to one of Brooks Koepka's like events and started heckling him? Like, Jacob Trouba fully taller than anyone else in the golf crowd.
By probably 6 inches.
And so he becomes the dude from Happy Gilmore.
Yeah.
Guns I'm gonna kill you.
Guns don't kill people. I kill people.
Yeah.
Which I totally disagree with. But at the same time, in this instance, run.
And then to finish on an optimistic note, Elliot Friedman has reported that Houston and Atlanta could be likely NHL expansion cities. Atlanta for the third time, I guess. But
it's the charm.
Yeah, right. And also mention Kansas City. And then we just want to shoehorn Portland into there.
So here's my thinking.
People are saying,
I don't think the NHL should expand.
No, I'm pretty happy with it right now.
I think the talent pool is about where it can possibly be to like keep teams remotely, because you're not drawing from the same talent pool as other sports. Like, the NFL doesn't have to worry about talent because almost everybody in every male in the United States plays football at least once. Major League Baseball doesn't have to worry about talent, just like basketball doesn't have to worry about talent because it's played everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Hockey has like 2 continents,
if that.
Like, it's North America and the northern part of Europe, sorta. Like
Asia, part of Asia if you count Russia.
England, just to piss off the Russians, be like, isn't most of your country in Asia? Fuck you, we're white, we're European, blah, 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 blah. No, we hate gay people just like the rest of you.
Our population is in Europe.
Yeah, well, that's cute. But most of your country's in Asia. You're
awkward.
You're stepchildren. Siberia. Anyways, I don't think that there is currently a talent pool big enough to support 34 NHL teams. There is. Like, you could field 34 NHL teams, but that doesn't mean that the hockey would be better. In fact, honestly, like, I wouldn't do it, but I think you could probably contract like 6 teams.
But would the money be better, Jake?
Are you really making a whole ton of money off of a Kansas City hockey team?
Well, I mean, to their credit, Kansas City fans are rabid. And
for 2 teams.
Sure. Give them a third. And they might not even know the difference.
And only kind of for the Royals. Granted, the Royals habitually suck.
Sure.
But
that 1 year.
Also Atlanta has proven it doesn't give a shit about hockey twice.
Exactly. And also you have these flailing franchises out there in Arizona. Just prop one of them up, move them to Houston. That's what anybody with a sane brain would say. But if there's a chance for Portland to get an NHL team, fucking bring on 36 teams. I don't give a shit.
We'll see Ty Ratty is your first line center.
Hell yeah.
And we're like, oh, it's Winterhawks 2012. Yay. Yeah, okay, sure. Portland's getting an MLB team and an NHL team.
I think it is more likely at this point to get an NHL team than a baseball team, unfortunately. I
don't think it is. I think Portland is on the short list for the MLB.
I don't know why I can't quite see it happening.
I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think Portland is on the short list for Major League Baseball. I don't think we're on the short list for the NHL.
No, because the short list for the NHL is Atlanta. But
please work this time.
Yeah, Atlanta and
pretty
Briere.
Please.
No, but what we have for hockey is 2 decent facilities, and we don't have a baseball stadium. So,
are we calling the Moda Center decent?
Have you been to a Coyotes game?
No, but I'd love to, and I bet you it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun.
I'm going to try and go next season.
They probably will look on the Mullet Arena years fondly in the future when their crowds aren't packed with drunk college kids. But
yeah, they're gonna be like, we miss that.
But Portland has colleges. We could pay.
That's
we could pay
as an alumnus of one of those colleges. You're using that term loosely.
Yeah. Well, one can dream, right?
Speaking of loose, this has been episode 78 of the Handsome Hockey Podcast. Thank you, as always, for listening to us hither and dither around the sport that we love. We've been doing this for 3 years now? 2 years now?
Something like that. We are rapidly closing in on 3,000 listens.
Which honestly, is probably what other podcasts get in about 45 minutes, but we think is probably 2,500 more listens than we ever thought we would get. And so we're just kind of blown away that people continue to kind of tune in and listen to us. I know full well that my mom doesn't listen to us. So these are people that are not kind of contractually obligated by blood to listen to us. And so thank you so much for checking in and checking us out. It's really cool to know that, we've been heard in something like 30 different countries at this point, and that's kind of weird. They're probably using our voices as torture in some Armenian prison or something. But
or Harvard hazing.
But also cool. But so thank you so much for listening to us. We can't say that enough. It's been an awesome ride so far, and hopefully we've got still some more places to go.
Yeah, thanks for coming on this journey with us. If you like to find out more, see more, hear more, you can find us on the internet at handsomehockey.com. We are Handsome Hockey Podcast on Instagram, at Handsome Hockey on Twitter, handsomehockeypod@gmail.com if you love Outlook, Handsome Hockey Facebook page if you are our parents, and we are on YouTube.
And I do actually have some really cool stuff to be putting up on Instagram and maybe Twitter, just some old time ass hockey shit that's really cool. So eventually I'll get to that. It'll probably be coming up pretty soon. But it's some cool stuff.
As aged millennials, we are still figuring out social media, and we get angry when they change the inputs on us.
Yeah. How does this not break?
Right? Like, I don't know how to use Instagram this week. Damn it.
Who do I have to give my social security number to prove that I can work this thing?
I need to find a Gen Zer to teach me Instagram again.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I teach my boss how to print a PDF.
I was going to say, I don't think that Gen Z even uses Instagram.
No, they're all over the TikTok.
Yeah.
We still don't understand.
Which is going to get banned because the Republican Party wants to control how you use the internet. So, yeah, you can only search for Jesus and AR-15s. Those are the 2 allowed Google searches in Trump America, coming soon to a neighborhood near you.
Well, that day will become the Jesus AR-15 podcast.
Yeah, and we will have a lot to say before we get arrested by the secret police. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. With that, stay handsome, everybody.
Restez beau, tout le monde, and send them black helicopters.